Hello, welcome to The World Today. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Here's what's coming up on the program. Kenya insists on going ahead with the deployment of a police force to Haiti. The World Today starts now. To other stories now, a huge romance scam has been busted in the Philippines as hundreds of people have been rescued from a scam center that made them pose as lovers online. Police who raided the center said they saw to the rescue of 383 Filipinos, 202 Chinese, and 73 other foreign nationals. The center, which is about 100 kilometers north of the country's capital, Manila, was masquerading as an online gambling firm. Southeast Asia has become a hub for scam centers where the scammers themselves are often entrapped and forced into criminal activity. Young and tech-savvy victims are often lured into running these illegal operations, which range from money laundering and crypto fraud to so-called love scams. Those typically start with the scammer adopting a fake identity to gain their victim's affection and trust, and then using the illusion of a romantic or intimate relationship to manipulate or steal from the victim. This often happens by persuading them to invest in fake schemes or businesses. Now in Zimbabwe, police have arrested the suspected leader of a religious sect in a village in the northern Mashonaland West province. 58-year-old Ishmael Chukwuregengwa was leading the sect. He was arrested alongside 7 other members of the cult. Police spokesperson Paul Nyati also said dozens of women and children have been rescued as well. Police also say most of the 251 children found in Mr. Chukwuregengwa's farm in Yambira, about 334 kilometers northwest of the capital, Harare, had not had birth certificates and were not allowed to attend school. Police have discovered a grave site at the farm where 16 people have been secretly interred, including 7 infants, whose burials were not registered with authorities. Now, earlier, we spoke to journalist Nigel Nyamatumbu about the situation in Zimbabwe.
In what has been termed a spectacular raid by the Zimbabwe police force at a religious shrine in Mashonaland West, some 30 or so kilometers outside west of the capital, Harare, Zimbabwe police have been recovering and has been rescuing a number of women and children that were held captive at this shrine by one Madzibaba, which is euphemism for religious father Ishmael Chukwuregengwa, who in his religious cult was taking women and children as part of his religious activities. To date, as far as this story is concerned, in excess of about 200 and so women and children have since been recovered, and there have also been some unidentified bodies, graves at the shrine, and police has since effected arrests in what has taken the country religious actors and indeed those that conform to the African traditional religion that is known as Mapostori in Zimbabwe have really been taken aback. There has been a litany of criminal charges that have been put before him as the religious leader, and indeed with his fellow leaders that he worked with in his sort of council that he operated with. And part of these criminal charges include abuse of children. And that charge on its own does carry some harsh sentences, prison sentences, and depending on the nature of those that are going to come forth, the charges could also vary to I would imagine, even culpable homicide, given these discoveries of unidentified and unsanctioned graves, unidentified bodies and unsanctioned graves at the site. So it's I think is really in it in terms of what the gravity of the charges that he faces. And you are looking here at a long jail term. I think it has really taken the online space. It is what is trending. It is what is dominating the social discourses everywhere. You've been engaging and dealing with people. And I think what is even more shocking is in a country where we are priding ourselves that we've got 100% mobile saturation of pretty much to argue that everyone now has an access to a mobile phone. At an era where we are celebrating the milestones around internet connectivity, in an era where we are pretty much talking and discussing about universality of access to information, of our celebrating the constitutional guaranteed rights and our Bill of Rights, and so forth. So it's really still something that people are processing and are eagerly following and are waiting to see whether our judicial system will rise to the occasion, to see whether our social system through the social services will rise to the occasion, and will really also see a further probe into all this religious cult.
Kenya's President William Ruto says the planned deployment of police officers to Haiti will go ahead as soon as the Caribbean country puts in place a transitional presidential council. Authorities had earlier this week put the planned deployment on hold following the announcement that Haiti's Prime Minister Ariel Henry would be stepping down. However, Haitian media reports that the creation of the council could take time as it's facing opposition from some political parties. The council will be tasked with appointing an interim prime minister and council of ministers to lead Haiti until the country holds elections. The new administration would also work with the Kenyan-led international police force to combat gang violence. President Ruto said he had assured U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken that Kenya will take leadership of the UN Security Support Mission in Haiti to restore peace and security as soon as the Presidential Council is in place under an agreed process. I want to bring in the Kenyan journalist Cyrus Ombati, who's in Nairobi. Cyrus, thanks for joining us on the program. Now, I thought the government was putting a pause, because that's what was reported, right? Putting a pause on the deployment of the police force to Haiti because there was no defined government in Haiti as a result of Ariel Henry resigning as prime minister. Why is there still assurance the deployment will still happen?
Yes, initially there were those plans that they would pause the deployment of the officers. But we understand there's a lot of pressure from the likes of the Americans, Canada, and other interested parties in Haiti. So that's why they put in pressure on Kenya to make sure that the deployment goes on as planned. When before Henry resigned, the plans to deploy the officers were in advanced stages, and the only thing that was holding them was the issue of money. So when he resigned, Kenya had to kind of pause the process and wait for the transitional team to be in place. And there's an assurance that the team will be in place in time so that they can be able to be deployed in time as soon as it's in place. We understand that when money is being raised by all those parties that are concerned, so that they can be able to channel the same to Kenyan team for the deployment. What's holding Kenya here? So logistics, money, its own money. They don't have money, kind of able to move to what they want to do. So far, we understand that as soon as the team is ready in office and the money is available, they move.
Yeah, and you mentioned that money is the problem, but there's also a problem with which is the political structure on the ground in Haiti, Cyrus. It's clear that the setting up of the transitional council will take time, as the media has rightly reported. But so who will be receiving the Kenyan police or this UN mission in Haiti?
Well, Kenya stated very clearly that they can only move to Haiti after and when the transitional council is in place. And that's what we understand, that they are waiting for that transitional council to be in place so that can enable the movement to Haiti. What we understand is that there's a bit of pressure in Haiti itself to kind of expedite the process of establishing that council so that it can be placed to have, for example, a minister in charge of police and internal security to now run the program that was agreed upon in Kenya. As it stands now, there is no government in Haiti because after the resignation of Mr. Henry, it means that the entire team led by Haiti ministers are out of office. So that's why the council is key and crucial for Kenya to be able to be moving to Haiti because they are the ones to rely to kind of coordinate many other issues there. We understand that when Mr. Blinken talked to Mr. Ruto in Kenya, and that was the main issue that they had to agree that this council has to be in place for them to be able to move them.
Yeah, and just to be clear, Cyrus, as we have been reporting, same with the story right from when it broke, this group of police, they're not made up of only Kenyan police. What other countries have contributed to this mission?
Well, apart from Kenya, we understand that countries like Chile, Burundi, Mali, there's Nigeria, there's Mauritius, there's Benin, are pledged to kind of send their own policemen to that country to help kind of restore order. Apart from these countries, other countries have kind of pledged support in terms of military money and other logistics. So in many other countries, especially from South American, they are pledging to send their troops or police to help in the whole process. So Kenya is not alone. There's a national team to be deployed to Haiti in the process of trying to restore order. So we hope more and more teams will be, for example, Benin has pledged 2,000 police officers. That's a big number deployed there. So it's an issue of when and how the team will now land in Haiti to do their job.
Yeah, and do we know if these police officers have been receiving training for the mission ahead in Haiti and what sort of training they have been receiving?
The team to be deployed to Haiti is a combat trained team kind of which has been undergoing pre-training, deployment training for the last 6 months. These are elite, they are totally taken to be elite team kind of because of the training, combat trained. They are from different units, but the training is same because they have a curriculum which they are using for their training. So I don't think there will be any challenge there because of the nature of their training. Just to be clear, just like the American Marines or SEAL, the Americans, that's how they are regarded here in Kenya. So they're highly trained officers who have experience in terms of combating such kind of group. Because some of them have been deployed somewhere like the Kenya-Somalia border where they were involved in the fight against Al-Shabaab. Others have been trained and deployed in places like the Rift Valley, which is forms of crime. So they are combat trained officers and I believe they can be able to conquer the problem in Haiti.
No, you have to go soon, Cyrus. Is there a time frame for the framework of this UN mission in Haiti?
The initial time frame for their stay in Haiti is a year, which is renewable depending on what they achieve on the ground. Remember, the main rallying kind of point here is elections, which Haiti is supposed to hold. So their main agenda is to organize and supervise the elections which are supposed to be held in Haiti. From there, they will know. Because we know once the first team finishes their job, we understand that half of them will come back because there is a reserve team which will also join the other team. So we have a team of around 1,500 officers, 1,500 officers who are ready The first team will go around 1,100 because there's 1,000 combat team, and there are those officers who are involved in kind of management of offices, running logistics here and there. So the team is huge. It's around 1,500 which will be involved and on the ground. 1 year, an additional year, then exchange of that kind of program. So as another year. So those are 2 years to say that's solid. Unless there's a change of our program on the ground.
All right. Thank you so much, Cyrus, for bringing us up to speed. Governance in the U.S. Now, President Joe Biden announced a $3 billion infrastructure project to strengthen communities through building up underserved neighborhoods in the U.S. Many of the residents in those communities are people of color. Our Washington correspondent Maria Bird discussed the latest developments with White House Director of Public Engagement, Stephen Benjamin.
Director Benjamin, we thank you so much for joining us. We are truly appreciative of the time that you've taken to talk about a big announcement today, $3 billion that has been set aside for bridging and strengthening communities, and is specifically going to address communities that look like Black and Brown Americans. Tell us why this is so important and what the President hopes will happen through this new announcement.
So, first of all, thank you so much for having me. No, this is a big day. It's this is one of the few programs in the federal government. The name actually applies to exactly what it's doing. We've seen all across the country the legacy challenges created by transportation and infrastructure decisions made 50, 60, even maybe 70 years ago that completely divided and destroyed communities, displacing thousands of people, destroying thousands of businesses and homes. And this announcement today by the president, historic announcement of $3.3 billion, is going to affect 40 states, 132 projects across 40 states. That's totally focused on reconnecting communities that have been divided many years ago. That also represent communities that have not only been underinvested in, but literally destroyed in many respects. The impact it's had on building generational wealth. You think about the businesses that were displaced and or destroyed, places of worship that people lost. So this effort is to correct some historic wrongs that have done to Black and Brown and even the Asian communities all across this country. The president's heading to Milwaukee today to announce this effort. The North 6th Street community is where streets were widened in the 1960s. Thousands of homes and businesses destroyed, displacing folks with an unsafe roadway, giving people from the suburbs access to the highway interchanges. And now the president's going to announce $36 million invested in connecting historically Black communities in the North with historically Latino communities in the South to jobs and schools and more. Also today, he's going to announce the Stitch in Atlanta. Construction of the downtown connector in the 1960s tore through the historic neighborhood of Schulauber that everyone's very familiar with, wiping out hundreds of homes and businesses. This huge announcement for Stitch in Atlanta represents $158 million that's going to construct a cap over the highway there to sort of reconnect Midtown and downtown and create some significant public green spaces. Also in Philadelphia, in Chinatown, the same thing happened in the 80s and 90s, as a matter of fact, demolishing a substantial portion of that community as well. So the president's announcing today $159 million for the Chinatown Stitch, which, just like Atlanta, is going to build over the expressway, revitalizing the neighborhood and creating new public spaces. And these are just a few examples of how the president is working to build a better future and working to address some systemic harm done to our communities of color. It's part of his historic commitment through his Justice 40 initiative which ensures that the benefits of these federal investments in climate, clean energy, clean transportation, and other programs go to disadvantaged communities that historically have not only been underinvested in, but also overburdened by climate and pollution. So It's an exciting day. It's a fun day. I think some of our parents and grandparents who have vivid memories of thriving communities. This will be restorative in a very meaningful way, but it's also going to create great jobs and really build us towards a much brighter future. So we're excited about it.
Now, you've mentioned covering up some of those highways to bring green space and creating some connectivity. Now, we know it's been, there's long talks around railroads separating communities, especially racially separating communities. And that's been a history of the United States. Talk to us about how you mentioned you mentioned Atlanta, but how we're going to be able to see, especially talking about retail, grocery stores, things that are typically not easily accessible a lot of times in some of our communities that Black and Brown, and specifically those that are under-resourced. Tell us how the administration plans to address some of that.
So, well, obviously, this is part of a significant effort that's reflecting the president's commitment to equity in all of the policymaking that he's done, from the American Rescue Plan through the bipartisan infrastructure law that supports this, through the CHIPS and Science Act, and then also through the Inflation Reduction Act, the most historic investment in climate and equity. To address your question very specifically, my experience, I've served as mayor of Columbia, South Carolina for 12 years. The investments that you make in solid green space that people will eventually build homes around and community around, or restore the homes that are there, give you more rooftops. Always seems to incent more commercial development, the things that you need. You have people living in communities, thriving, benefiting from the significant economic successes we've seen. 2 years running, unemployment under 4%, 15 million new jobs created in the last 3 years under the president. Think about this post-pandemic opportunity we've seen. So with all of this growth, we'll see more and more economic opportunity, 21st century economic opportunity, I might add, for all communities. So it does start with significant investments in the public space, in the civic square, where we all gather, that helps build up our property values. And again, encourages more of us to do like I did as a young professional, to buy a home in the neighborhood, to restore it, and then watch property values and investment follow. This is an opportunity to help continue that trend.
And Director Brown, before we let you go, as we think about kind of the next phase in this approach, we know that, as you mentioned, there are going to be jobs developed. We know that they're going to provide a connectivity with communities. But what are we thinking around the education components? Some of the things around schools, communities, and our schools, obviously, oftentimes, depending on where you live, depends on the quality of the education. Will this also perpetuate the family environment to be able to ensure that families are able to provide and receive the best education?
Sure, and I would tell you, I have the deepest, the most profound respect for the women and men who teach our children. They are dedicated professionals who do a great job. I believe our job as leaders is to make sure that the environment that our children are growing up in reflects the dedication of the parents who love them dearly and the teachers who commit their lives to teaching them. And that's why the president's really been taking a whole of government approach to making sure that communities are safer. We watch violent crime decrease in all communities. 50%, a 50-year historic drop in violent crime all across the country. So investing in good, thoughtful community policing that helps make communities safer, investing heavily, as he's been doing from cradle to college, historic investment in historically Black colleges and universities, all the way down to making sure that we have well-paid, well-trained caregivers for our babies at a very young age as well. Making sure that we have the significant investment in quality housing the president announced at the State of the Union this past Thursday that will help create millions of new housing units all across the country, and also give homeowners a tax credit and relief to those who are renting. It really requires a whole of government approach that I believe that when children have less to worry about, less to be concerned about, then they can focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic. They can focus on preparing themselves for jobs of the future. It's our job to create an environment that recognizes the fact that that children don't fail. Communities fail children. It's up to each and every one of us to step up and make sure they have the tools that they need to be successful and do all the great things that God has in store for them. I know the president feels that way as well.
Rich, I know I said last question, but states are really important in this as well. How are governors, have you all begun to socialize this with governors and states to ensure that they are going to be good partners through this investment and through what it seems to be a very large infrastructure and development plan?
Yeah, well, you know, we always want to make sure that we're working very effectively in an intergovernmental relationship. In some states, that works better than other states, as we well know. Thankfully, a number of these resources will be going directly to communities in places where we might have some challenges with the state. But it'd be foolish for any state or a state leader to stand in the way of these amount of resources that go directly to benefiting their constituents. So I expect, under the great leadership of Secretary Buttigieg, who's leading this team, Chris Coase and others have been working diligently on this the last several years. And most of these programs, of course, have to have state support to even make them real. So I'm confident we'll be able to get going on these sooner rather than later to benefit all communities.
Dr. Benjamin, thank you so much and all the best.
Maria, thank you for the opportunity and thank you for the work you do.
Our correspondent Maria Bird in Washington with the White House Director of Public Engagements, Stephen Benjamin. We're back now in South Africa as the government terminates a deal to sell its flag carrier, South African Airways, after failing to agree on a fair value for the airline. Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan said after 3 years of negotiations, the deal has been called off as there is no clear path forward. Mr. Gordhan also cited the impact of the post-COVID-19 market as a significant factor to the decision-making, leading to a reevaluation of SAA's worth. The government was in talks to sell SAA to Takaso Group, which is made up of closely held Global Airways and private equity firm Harith General Partners. Takaso acquired a controlling stake in SAA in June 2021, where the consortium set to own 51% of SAA, while the government would own the remaining 49%. In a statement, the Takaso Consortium said the changes in the deal to buy SAA would have taken too long to achieve. SAA will now revert to being fully state-owned, but the government says the airline is open to entering into other partnerships.
So late last week, which is what we put before Cabinet today, there was agreement that in terms of a clause in the previous or the old sale and purchase agreement, where by mutual consent this transaction could be terminated, that clause was put into action and both parties have agreed, after we inquired about the status of the negotiations, that there was no clear path forward as far as the transaction with Takaso is concerned.
The idea is that you could, through business rescue, through better management, through better use of the resources, turn it back into a profitable business, and so it could bring in future income, which is what makes it valuable. However, the plan there wasn't disclosed by the private purchasing company. In other words, for years, this thing is dragged out with no details about how it's supposed to work. And the primary blame does fall on the minister in charge, Pravin Gordhan, who has now announced his retirement, almost at the same time as announcing that the deal is off. What's going to happen going forward is very unclear. SAA's assets, its airplanes, its hangar space have languished, and it's hard to know how the matter can resolve itself.
Welcome back. We're fully focused on Africa now, but in Nigeria, the Lagos state government has asked residents to visit any general hospital close to them to get their eyes properly checked. A special advisor on health, Dr. Kemi Oguyemi, made this comment during an awareness walk to commemorate the 2024 World Glaucoma Week. Dr. Guyemi says over 650,000 residents have benefited from the Lagos State Eye Intervention Program and appealed to people to take advantage of the ongoing free eye screening provided by the state government.
Senior officials of the Lagos State Ministry of Health are out on an awareness drive on blindness prevention. The World Glaucoma Week provides the opportunity to enlighten the people on eye conditions that damage the optic nerve as a result of increased pressure on the eye. The team moves around Alausa Secretariat, encouraging state civil servants to carry out routine checks on their eye.
If you are staying in your working place, if your eyes is blind, you might not find it easy. Please and please come to Alausa and come and check your eyes.
Everybody must be sighted, and we can all unite to fight this menace.
The awareness exercise continues outside the Secretariat as participants distribute flyers to motorists plying Alausa Ikeja Road.
This week is World Glaucoma Week. We'll be screening you free of charge. If you need medications, we will give you medications. If you need reading glasses, we will give you reading glasses instantly. And if you need surgery, we will refer you to one of our government hospitals.
Everybody cherishes their sight.
According to the Special Advisor on Health, Dr. Kemi Oguyemi, 11 general hospitals have been equipped to manage cataract, glaucoma, and other common eye conditions affecting people in Lagos State.
So when we say prevention is better than cure, what we're trying to say with glaucoma is that this disease exists. Some people don't even know about it, and the only way you're going to know about it is if you go and have your eyes checked. So especially if you're diabetic, if you do have a history of it in the family, it's also worth having your eyes checked as well. It doesn't mean you'll get it. However, you're more predisposed, you're more at risk of getting it compared to somebody who doesn't have a history of it in the family. We have opticians everywhere, we have ophthalmologists everywhere. It's so easy. And then Lagos State is even giving free eyeglasses. So we're going to have like a massive outreach. We're going to have eye tests done. It's free. We're not even asking anybody to pay for anything, so that you wear your glasses as prescribed.
The 2024 World Glaucoma Week echoes the need for citizens to unite for a glaucoma-free world. Regular eye checks are a priority for early detection and treatment to prevent this sight-stealing disease.
The quest for regional maritime integration has taken a leap forward as the Nigerian Navy signs an agreement with the Navy of Benin Republic to maintain and repair 6 of its patrol boats. As a first of its kind by both nations, approved by the Nigerian Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala. The Admiral Superintendent of the Naval Dockyard, Rear Admiral Abolaji Orediru, says a bold step would place the Naval Dockyard as a significant player in ship buying and repairs. Our correspondent, Chris Elems, reports.
The plan has been in the works between the navies of Nigeria and Benin to forge a more strategic partnership. And here they signed an agreement for the Nigerian Navy to maintain 6 of Benin patrol boats at the Naval Dockyard. The Naval Dockyard has played very significant role in shipbuilding and maintenance. But this new assignment lends credence to its capabilities and growth over the years. The opportunities here are numerous, as the country is now open to more business activities and also intensify its quest to keep protecting the Gulf of Guinea.
J'ai dit tout à l'heure dans mon intervention que c'est une première.
I have said earlier that it was one of its kind.
Et donc c'est parce que nous espérons que ce contrat que nous venons de signer, lorsque les objectifs seront atteints, ça va vraiment profiter la marine nationale béninoise et par surcroît, ça va impacter le développement de l'économie bleue de notre pays.
This project, if conducted rightfully to the end, that will impact Benin Navy, but that will also impact the blue economy, maritime economy. Yes.
The import of this agreement, according to the Admiral Superintendent, is huge and historic, considering the impact on the bilateral relationship between both countries.
It is a very important occasion because this talks about regional cooperation among navies of the region. It talks about enhancing operational efficiency among the navies of the region, and it also talks about enhancing friendship, cooperation among the navies of the region. Some of the ships will go to Nigeria on their own steam, as in they will sail to Nigeria, and some will have to be brought to Nigeria by some other means, and then all the repairs will take place in the naval dockyard. All this we have been able to achieve because of the support, the encouragement, and the dynamic leadership of the Chief of the Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ikechukwu Ogala Admiralty Medal.
While Benin Republic will no longer have to travel out of the continent to maintain its naval fleets, this will provide the chance for its Nigerian counterpart to broaden and hone their shipbuilding and maintenance skills, as well as improve on capacity. Chris Ilems, Channels Television News.
Here's the last story on the program today. Ethiopian priests are trying their best to preserve their history by recreating ancient religious manuscripts. This painstaking feat is done by writing the ancient passages with bamboo ink pens and copying sacred artwork set to date back hundreds of years.
Ethiopian Orthodox priests and worshippers are working tirelessly to copy ancient texts from religious books written by the Ge'ez language onto goatskin parchments. Volunteers at the Hamir Berhan Institute in Addis Ababa are transcribing the ancient passages with bamboo ink pens and replicating sacred artwork set to date back hundreds of years. Fakade Bisho, an Ethiopian Orthodox priest who's been working on the book since 1986, says transcribing the ancient texts is his life's work.
I led my life by writing. I wrote many spiritual books, like about St. Mary, many spiritual essays about St. Michael, and so on. Whatever our spiritual leaders ask me, I will write. My life is writing. 4 years ago, I joined the Hamera Berhan Institute to write.
Ishimabet Sise, who is in charge of communications at the Hamari Berhan, says the institute has 61 people working for it. She also stressed the importance of passing on ancient knowledge to future generations.
The name of our organization is Hamere Berhan Institute. It's 5 years old. Our company has over 61 workers. We do various parchment works, ancient books, ancestors, phrase paintings, church facility workings, from mines and wooden paintings. At some point, the works done by our fathers were lost and forgotten, but now are continued by their children. We need to continue handing it over to the next generations. That's why we have started training and opened this institute for the next generation.
The process of creating fresh goatskin parchments is a long and arduous one. The skins are immersed in water for up to 4 days and then stretched, cleaned, and left to dry in the sun. Once dry, the skins are then stripped off the hair and cut into pages. Smaller books can take up to 2 months to complete, while larger manuscripts can take as many as 2 years to prepare. The books are eventually donated to be used in monasteries and churches.
I hope that someday we'll be able to read those manuscripts. Thanks for watching The World Today. I'm Amarachi Ubani.